Response segment. Response is where I answer questions you have or reply to events or problems that are going on in the world today. You may email me at stopbygrace@gmail.com or tweet me with the hashtag stopbygrace, and I will answer your questions or topics with the best biblical answer. Thank you. Now let's get in it. And today's topic is going to be about Shad Gaspard. And you even know who that is? He was a WWE superstar, and he was a great superstar. I love the what was that team called? It was a former team called the JTG, and it was him and his homeboy. And they used to be like a great tag team. Don't know if they be a tag team champion before. I'm not gonna really look into it. Maybe I'll do a video on that later on my YouTube. But I wanted to talk about the death of him, and I was just like pondering and thinking about like, wow, this is a crazy story. This is a really, really sad story, because a man who risked his life. A lot of people just talk about people risking their life a lot of times about for their children. Like, I would die for you. I would die for my child. I would die for my son. I would die for this. And he really did it. He really went out there to save his son. He was like, the story went, I'm going to do a summary of it. Basically, the story was at the Venice Beach, I think it was Venice Beach or somewhere around Venice Beach or whatever. Some beach in California. I'm in California myself. So it was definitely a sad story because it was close to our home. All right. And basically, him and his son was at the beach. And I guess his son got swept up in the wave, and he went out there to go save him. And the lifeguard rescued his son to safety. But yet, Chad got swept into the wave farther back, and he was fighting against the waves. And basically, what he did was he got stuck, and it was searching for him because they couldn't find him. He was not seen anymore. So I guess he drowned, and you can't see nobody underwater. But a couple of days later, a body appeared on the beach in Venice Beach, and they reported the body and identified him as the person that was dead. A very sad story. But I was thinking, like, he sacrificed himself for his son. And I was like, how can I respond to this? How can I do a response video to this? And the response is, we just think about the death of God's son. Because yet, God sent his son for the world, for God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten son. And as we look at even different stories of God's situation as well too, where God was interacting in the world. One good example of this same kind of story was Abraham. Abraham was going to sacrifice his son. God provided a son through the promise that Abraham would bear a son at an old age. And once God had fulfilled this promise, God asked Abraham to sacrifice his son. And Abraham was willing to. He took his son up to the mountain. He presented his son to God, and he was going to slay him. But yet God stopped him. And God said no. And God would not even do this because, for one fact, is that God would not accept sin, killing a human being, for the replacement of sin. Definitely not as an offering at all. But going fast forward 2,000, 3,000 years later, God sends his son. But yet it was a different kind of son, because it was the only begotten son, because he was not born into sin, because he was only born by one, meaning Mary, the Virgin Mary. And as this happens in our world today, I was like, wow. Yeah, he sacrificed himself for his son, so his son will be saved. God sacrificed himself so that we will be saved. That's a wonderful concept to even think of. Like, God sacrificing himself for us to be saved. Chad sacrificed himself so his son can be saved and live an abundant life. And I hope that he realizes this. And I hope that he says to himself, like, sorry for the dog in the background. I don't know why that dog is barking. Dog be barking sometimes. It's not even my house. This is my dad's house. But anyways, I don't understand how. I hope that. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I hope that his son will not blame himself. I pray that his son will not blame himself. I really do, because even ourselves, we might say, I blame myself as well, because yet I sin against God. I sin against my Father, and He had to die for me. Why, Lord? Why did you sacrifice yourself? Why can it not be me? Why could not be the one that died except you? You did so much for me already, Father. You already did so much in my life that I couldn't even bear myself. But yet, you still died for me. But why? And as I think about this, God is speaking and saying, son, you wouldn't even be worth the sacrifice. Because all the evil things that you have done in your life. And as I look and say, Father, you're right. I'm not even worth the sacrifice. I'm not even worth to be sacrificed. But by your grace, I have been saved. You died for me, even though I did not deserve it. And to all those who are listening and watching, we don't deserve the sacrifice. For it is by grace you have been saved through faith in Jesus Christ our Lord. For it is not by our works, so that any man should boast, but it's the gift of God. It is a gift from God. So as we go out through our week, and I conclude this podcast, we just look and give a tribute to Chad. And I just pray for his family, that they be comfort and feel God's presence and love, and also experience God's grace. That's all for today on the Stop by Grace podcast. See you next time.